my personal growth has been profound in recognizing that I've spent my entire life violating my own values with myself in an effort to maintain relationships that were unhealthy, in an effort to belong, in an effort to fit some sort of mold. And when I stopped and said, but wait, I don't believe in myself. I don't love myself. I'm not treating myself by those same values that I'm trying so desperately to comply with externally. So therefore, I'm not authentic.
Emotionally unavailable.
Welcome to Emotionally Unavailable, the podcast where we dive deep into the world of emotional availability and intimacy. I'm your host, Malisa Hepner, and I can't tell you how excited I am to have you join me on this journey of self-discovery and connection. Whether you're navigating the complexities of relationships or exploring your own emotional landscape, this podcast is here to inspire, empower, and entertain. So get cozy and let's explore the depths of human emotions together. Hi guys, happy Friday. Hope you're doing well. I'm doing well. Today's guest is Lisa Danahy. She is a powerful educator and entrepreneur. Her nonprofit, Create Calm, has facilitated cultural shifts and deep healing for thousands of students, teachers, and families in hundreds of schools and community organizations across the country since 2016. With an MS in yoga therapy and BA in psychology, over 30 years as a school administrator and SEL curriculum developer, and certification as an advanced educator and trainer, Lisa is highly skilled at creating accessible, evidence-based, successful curricula for behavioral and emotional regulation, as well as physical and mental health. Lisa specializes in providing programs for neurodiverse, disabled, and underserved children and young adults, and trainings for educators, therapists, parents, and caregivers in practices of self-care and resiliency. Lisa is a Hay House featured author, national conference presenter, and international trainer. She's grateful for every opportunity she has to co-create healing and healthy living. She has authored, did I say she authored Creating Calm in Your Classroom? Okay. She is amazing. We had such a fun conversation that was so perfectly timed because, well, I messed up the first time we were supposed to meet. And so it ended up happening at a later date, but it really just came along at a really good time. She really just boosted me and we had a really good time. So, I know you're going to love this conversation. I will make sure to oh my Lord, include links for her website, her book. Yeah, I think those will probably just be the two that I list on the show notes. So make sure you check the show notes out for that. Again, she's amazing, and I know you guys are going to really like this conversation. So I hope that you all have a fabulous Friday. I love you. I'm so grateful for you being here. I am very tired. It's been a weird week with the full moon stuff, so I'm just going to keep this intro at that. But I appreciate you, and thank you for being here. And here is me and Lisa.
Emotionally unavailable.
Okay, because you didn't come to me through Podmatch, I don't remember if I told you this, but whenever I air my episode, that's when I read like a separate like bio, whatever, and really feature you. But for this, we just have a conversation.
Yep, sounds good.
So you said that you've been in education and therapeutic yoga for over 35 years.
Yes.
So I'm like, it's hard for me to know where to start because I'm like, well, how did those converge? Where did you start? Like, wherever you want to land us in to, begin this journey together, I am open because I'm like, were you always into yoga? Were you, like what happened? How did you get here?
Sounds good. Well, I will try to be as brief as I can about it, but I always had an interest in human development, human nature. I studied psychology in college while I was studying in college, I was putting myself through school. So I was working full time, going to school full time. And I was working in a law firm
Okay.
and really stressful space.
Yeah.
And by the time I got out of school, I took a human resource position at this law firm. And I was there for many, many years to the point where um, I got married and had children. And a very good friend of mine was doing her yoga studies. And I was in a really stressful job.
Mm.
And, she said, well, why don't you come take some of my classes so I can get credit for teaching? And so, long story short, she introduced me to the practices that turns out my grandmother was doing when I was little, when I'd walk by her room and wonder why she was just sitting there in a weird position looking out the window.
Yeah.
So my grandmother was doing that. When I was a teenager, my mom was doing transcendental meditation. And I
Wow.
swore I would never be like either one of my mom or my grandmother. And here I am now. I'm a yoga therapist.
That's so
Um,
funny.
so fast forward through raising kids, I transitioned from law firm to running a school so that I could kind of help to be more involved in their skill building around social emotional learning.
Mm-hmm.
Ran this school, brought yoga to the school in 1998, I think, as a part of our curriculum. We always had social emotional elements, and then when my kids graduated, my youngest graduated from school, I decided that my third child, the school, was ready to go off on its own too. So I became a full-time yoga therapist and started working in schools, started working with private families and in communities with special populations, just really wanting to help the children and the adults in those settings to feel more empowered to take care of themselves, to
Yeah.
feel better, connected to their bodies and more positively connected to their feelings and their thoughts. We were talking a moment ago about, there's these inside little voices, and as we grow up, those voices sometimes get really loud. And I just wanted people to know that they could still have conversations in there. They could still go back to that child within them and reconcile things or revive things. And
Yeah.
so here I am today, doing it as a full-time gig.
Wow. I love that. And do you do one-on-one stuff or are you doing just classes or how are you doing your practice?
So I do it all. I have a nonprofit called Create Calm. And Create Calm goes into schools and community centers and spaces, and we run classes.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we're working directly with the children. And then I also run trainings and workshops. And I'm a presenter at conferences for teachers and parents and healthcare professionals.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, so that I want them to have the tools. Um, I absolutely love working with children. And what I learned when I first started doing yoga with these kids is they are energetically attuned. You know, kids can read you
Oh, yeah.
no matter what. And so
Yep.
I loved it. It was so refreshing because they didn't have all those complicated layers and all those other stories, right? And so
Uh-huh.
I thought, wouldn't it be great if the adults that are working with kids and raising kids could remember and reconnect with that childlike energy and know-how?
I love
And and so that's what we do. So my nonprofit is doing that. I'm out there as part of the work, working with the kids, doing trainings. And then I have private practice that I see clients one-on-one or families.
I
And
love that.
we work with all kinds of different circumstances.
Yeah, that's so cool. I wonder if that's why your name sounded a little familiar to me when you first approached me, is because I worked in education for 7 years. And we had some teachers who really integrated things like this. And I can't help but remember when my youngest, my daughter, she's 11 now, but when she was in a little Mother's Day out, there was a girl there who loved yoga and saw the benefits and whatever. So the kids, that was one of their little electives. And when she was like 2 years old with the cutest little booty, just doing little down dog, it was just, I have this picture of her that's so cute. And the other day, I don't know why I'm telling you this, but this is who I am as a person. The other day she's working on being able to like go back into a back bend. And I said, then start doing some more yoga, because when I was doing yoga really consistently, I got really good at the bridge. And she's like, how do I build this? And I was like, well, then we got into an argument over semantics about what the name of down dog is. And I just said down dog. She's like, it's actually downward dog. And I said, well, actually, it's downward facing dog. And she's like, no, it's not. And I was like, yeah, it is. So then we had a little tip for a second, but she did it. And I could just picture her as that 2-year-old again. But I'm really excited for her because she's a person. I don't know if you're into human design at all,
Very much
but
so.
okay. So she's a manifester. And
Okay.
so she carries so much energy with her when she comes home from school. And I've been encouraging, but you can't tell her what to do.
No,
So
because
I've been
manifestors are
encouraging.
on
Yeah,
the plan.
you
They're on a path.
cannot. Yeah, I can't even tell her it's bedtime. Like, I have to lovingly encourage a bedtime. I'm so serious because this is just who she is. And people can think that's disrespectful. And I'm a permissive parent. I just happen to understand who she is. So I'm like, okay, but she also knows what's good for her when we talk about that. And so we had been talking about like, you are struggling because you're not getting enough sleep. So I'm going to lovingly encourage you around that time. We, build a better hygiene, whatever. But God, now I don't even remember what I was going to tell you. Oh, because I have encouraged certain practices to release that energy at the end of the day, but she gets pissed off at me for encouraging because it's not her idea. So I'm really hoping that this yoga stuff, especially down dog, because that's where it seems like a lot of her energy comes like here in her limbs and she needs to push it out. And so I'm really excited for her. But I think this is a great gateway into what these practices really can do. And what we were talking about beforehand is you get to decide what this practice means for you. So if you're just doing it because you know that flexibility and whatever is good for you, because God knows I'm 45 and I need to re-engage in this practice because I had gotten to where I was like, at least 5 minutes a day, at least 5 minutes I can commit. And I was doing it and I was feeling good. And I have not been doing it. I really do need to re-engage. So this conversation is really coming at a good time. But you can also get layers upon layers upon layers of benefits. It can be only psychological, it can be spiritual, it can be a convergence.
Yeah. Yeah, in yoga therapy training, when I was getting my master's, we often referred to it as top down or bottom up. And the great thing about yoga therapy is it's a biopsychosocial model where if you're a very brainy person, we can meet you there. We can meet you there in meditation. We can meet you there in the thought stuff and help you get reconnected to your body. If you're a very physical body person and there isn't that connection to the mind, we can take you from your body, those sensations in the body, and take you back up to deciphering them.
Yeah.
And all of that is managed by the nervous system. So once you start to come top down and bottom up, you start to enhance the communication along the nervous system. You start to be able to control the nervous system and you do get to choose. You choose.
Yeah.
And, I love that you and your daughter were working with downward facing dog.
I am going to tell her I was right, just so you know.
I'm good. I was just throwing that in there for you.
Yeah, I am going to be like, guess what, Charlie?
Grown-ups rule sometimes. Um,
Exactly.
but when you were talking about that, one of the things I love, love, love about downward facing dog is as little kids, they're flexible and they can automatically go into it. And it just makes us adults like so envious, right?
Yeah, because Mama got to bend her knees a bunch, a bunch.
Exactly. Exactly.
Hmm.
But we lose the flexibility, but we gain strength. So she's moving into a strength place. And downward dog gives you the room to play with flexibility and strength. But the real power in downward dog as a coping mechanism or a recentering is whatever you need, you can find it in there. The inversion can help relieve headaches, help relieve depression, help relieve fatigue. The strength building, the arms, there are these energy lines of the heart and lungs that run through your arms. So if you're feeling really
Mm.
stressed out, really emotional, when you're pressing into your hands and extending those arms and you're extending the spine, you're self-soothing,
Yeah.
right? And so it's I mean, that's like a one-stop shop, and you can do it with your hands on the wall. You can do it with your hands on a chair. You can do it with your knees bent, or you can do puppy with
Yeah.
the floor. But I think that was such a great example that you brought up of where even one pose is malleable and you get
Yes.
what you need out of it.
Wow. Okay. So here's the thing is that something that I learned from my own experience, but not without understanding the why, was because I used to be a very, very, very reactive person. And part of that reactivity involved pain, discomfort in my arms because I wanted to hurt people with my hands because I would get so escalated. And so, in learning how to deal with that with myself, when I was a school counselor, I would teach children, and I just said this to my daughter the other day about chair pushes where you're in the chair and you push down and you get to relieve that pressure, or wall pushes to relieve the pressure. I didn't know why the hell I was, I didn't know why it was happening or why it worked, but that is such a great explanation. And it
Yeah.
also, couple things. Um, Now I'm knowing why they throw down dog into so much of a yoga practice. And it was one of the things. So, the why I went to a bunch when my boys were little, and I really struggled with postpartum depression after the second one. And somewhere in that postpartum period, I started going to yoga like 4 days a week. And I got really good at it, which gave me like some value because had such low self-esteem. Like, didn't even know that, but like hated myself. But also, man, I felt so good when I was doing it 4 days a week in a whole hour and hitting a hot yoga class or whatever. And now it makes so much sense because we did lots of down dog, lots. But that was like something I was like mastering and felt so good about. And I had felt this call back to yoga for so long. And now I'm like, I gotta get back into it.
I love it. And I think that that's what my biggest takeaway in all my years of doing yoga is that it meets you where you are and it's a forever line that it comes to find you on, because whatever I need, it shows up. One day it might be, my bridge feels great. The next day my bridge is sucky. I but down dog is actually a really great, constant in it, but you don't have to be able to do that. I read
Yeah,
research many years ago. I read this research article that said when you're in a yogic space, even if all you do is guided breathing practices and visualization of the movements, you experience a physiological altering of your body.
I believe
So,
that.
not even doing down dog, but imagining that you're doing down dog can
Yeah,
bring many of the same benefits as doing it yourself, doing it
that's
directly.
amazing. That's
Yeah, and
amazing.
you brought up something that I really wanted to touch on because it came up in what you were saying just now about your own personal practice, but also your daughter and standing behind her as an individual. And I think what what I saw in there is the importance of intuition and of inner knowing. And inner knowing, intuition, that internal guidance system that says, oh, this feels good, I need more. Oh, I'm out of alignment, I need that. It's a practice that we're pretty good at when we're little. In fact,
Mhm.
babies, you know, babies are hungry, they cry. It's
Yeah,
like,
they want to
they're
get somewhere. They work to roll over. They
they want
learn to
that.
crawl. Yeah,
They don't want something. You try to give baby something they don't want. They're like,
they're not gonna take it. Uh-uh.
no, but then somewhere along the line, we say, well, to be part of our society, there's these rules and there's these expectations. and there's this way you have to behave, and believe and trust the adults in your world before yourself.
Mhm.
So, especially when our kids get to like that 11 and 12 where they're really trying to figure out, where do I fit in? I'm transitioning from this really close survival mode with this parent to these peers that I kind of need for my survival, and
Mhm.
and then moving into adulthood. And I think that yoga lets us peel back those layers instantly,
Yeah.
within 3 breaths. Everything that is the framework of the external pressures starts to melt away.
Yeah.
And so I think you encouraging your daughter to be her and listen to herself and figure it out, and you saying, hey, no, this might be something you want to look at, is the way to do it. And you going to your yoga mat and going, damn, this felt really good. I should do more.
Yeah.
Because I can't tell you that. But,
Right.
so I think it's just really important that we know that so often we are wired to self-soothe. We are wired to belong, and we are wired to be risk averse.
Mhm.
And depending on where you put those priorities, you might forego one or the other. So if I'm really wanting to belong, I might do riskier things. Or if
Yeah.
I'm really risk averse, I might not do what feels good to me because it
Mhm.
might be unfamiliar.
Well, and something that we have so many conversations around on here is how, like, we were taught so fiercely to be compliant above all else, and how that, along with traumatic experiences and all kinds of other stuff, really separates us from our bodies and from our intuition. And the story that I was sharing about, like, oh, my intuition, yay, like, every confirmation that I get like that is such, like, a miracle, because I'm so grateful to be tuned in again because of how long. I mean, I could feel it calling to me, obviously, but I was taught self-sacrifice to my own demise. I was taught to be compliant. I was taught to be accepted. And I mean, those are things that I'm working really hard to not pass down to her. It's tricky, like, I'm not saying I'm perfect at it for sure, but I see her making decisions for herself that I don't know that I would have made from the same place that she's making them. In some ways, she's a Virgo rising, so I see her little perfectionist ass trying real hard to make her teachers love her. Um and when I first, like, I don't know, maybe when I got to, like, more of a spiritual awakening place, I wanted to try to remove that people pleasing from her. But I thought to myself, I pictured myself in a freaking Lifetime movie where I'm the hippie mom with the responsible daughter and she hates her hippie mom. You know what I mean? And I was like, no, Melissa, whether it's people pleasing or it's, the other end of the spectrum where they're just like this quote unquote behavior issue, whatever it is, you have to meet her where she is. So if she's really into getting the good grades and her teachers complimenting her, that's where she's at right now. And so let her be.
Melissa, spoiler alert, as a mom with older adults now, they're gonna hate you.
Oh, for sure. I've got a 23-year-old and an 18-year-old. The 18-year-old moved out promptly after graduation, like, just moved out, just moved out. And he was
Yeah.
like, "No, I need to get out of here." And I said,
Yeah.
"And I
Yeah.
appreciate that.
Yes.
Go
And
be good
one kid
adults."
will love one side of you and the other kid hates the same side.
Oh my God. No, that's so funny because we went through this little period where my boys who are older hurt my feelings so bad because one
Yeah.
was like, the one who just moved out, he was like basically saying it was douchey that I had a podcast and blah blah blah. And he's like, it's fine that you're doing it. I just don't want you to talk to me about it. And I was like, okay. He believes in astrology, but he doesn't want me to talk to him about astrology, shit like that. And then the older one likes those things about me, a little annoyed about the conversation, like, would like me to shut up a little bit, but pretty accepting of those parts of me, doesn't like the analytical part of me that will like pathologize things. But I'm like, everything is pathology, dude. It all leads from somewhere. Like, what?
Yeah.
They get so annoyed with me. And now she's still pretty obsessed with me right now. So like I'm really taking I'm
Well,
holding on to that.
and honestly, it's not like a either or too. Like, that's the real challenge in this whole motherhood thing. And I know we've gotten a little off topic, but it's fascinating to me is we just are um we have to learn to be so self-confident and self-assured and really listen to our intuition that we know tomorrow they're going to love what they hated
Yep.
yesterday. And that there is, there we have a knowing that we did what we did our best, our parents did their best, our kids are
Yep.
going to do their best, and in the end of the day, whether my kid is hugging me or hitting me, it's them, not me.
No, for real. And that's like I stopped, so much of my darkness that I really went through was
Yeah.
related to feeling so like failing as a mother
Oh yeah.
and feeling like I was just doing everything wrong, and it got so loud that I felt like they were better off without me. And then
Oh
as I've worked backwards from that, and I just think truly I'm like, no, I think it's kind of the human experience to be a little fucked up by your parents and work through that. Like I'm not going to be perfect, and God
yeah.
knows I haven't been, and I still do it wrong all the time. The difference is I don't care. I care in that I'm going to continue to try to be my best self, but that's not going to be perfect ever. And accountability doesn't mean I need to hate myself for making mistakes. And so I learned to stop leaning into my own fear and my own shame because their experience is theirs. This is their life.
Yes, and I wanted to change one of the words you use because I'm a very I've become increasingly knowledgeable of how my words can impact
Yeah.
my experience. And I used to say I don't care, but now I've been studying a lot of quantum physics.
Yes,
Is
yes, help me.
it doesn't matter.
I like that.
And the difference is in quantum physics, the notion is if you think it, it becomes matter.
Mhm.
And so if I don't think it, it is not matter. It doesn't
I
matter.
love that.
And
No,
so
that's
I can
great.
still care. I can still have my feelings. I can still feel that that disconnect. I can still feel some of it, but I can go, "Oh, I noticed that feeling and that behavior doesn't matter or that relationship doesn't matter.
No, you're
It's
so right.
it doesn't matter. And it's not them or me. It's not about us as people." So just
Well, and I don't care has a certain connotation as
right.
well.
It's kind of like authoritarian or like it's implying that there's a right and wrong. And
Yes.
and I am
A
learning
morality clause.
exactly. There is no
Yeah,
right
no,
or
you're
wrong.
right.
Yeah, so it
See, I
doesn't
love when people
matter.
teach me stuff. Yeah, you're so right. And what's great is I just learned from a quantum physics guy on here a couple days ago. He really talks about that acknowledgement of that humanness and then your higher self and the convergence of those being the alchemy. So that's what you just said too. Whereas I don't care is my human self being shut down. Like
Yes.
I'm trying to just be like, "Oh no." Whereas it doesn't matter is my highest self and my human self can go even though I'm a little nervous that I made that mistake or whatever, it doesn't matter. And there's
Yes,
the
yes.
alchemy.
It is not matter. I'm
Yeah.
like not gonna let it be matter.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
just wrote to a friend of mine. I'm gonna read this really quick because I didn't know why I was saying this in this way, but it ties to this conversation. I said, so if sound can heal, water can feel, why are we still not convinced that we can take control of our own energetic states and experiences?
Yep.
You know?
That resonates for sure. And that's the magic I'm learning to tap into. And so it's funny, my that has been probably the number one thing that people have challenged me on here. And I mean, I shouldn't use that word, but corrected, loved, I don't know. But is like a verbiage. And I love it because I think of all the ways that I've harmed myself by using language that has the morality clause that is covered in shame or fear or doubt or whatever. And I really do want to live from a very empowered place because I am the power, you know?
Yeah, and I think part of it too is, and you hear all the time, the present moment, the present moment. And the benefit to being in the present moment is we don't have to pass judgment on the words and the things that we did and who we were. We just say right here and now, my goal is to focus on how I word things. My goal is to have that alignment between the the physical self and the energetic self. My goal is, and right here and now I'm feeling this. And to, like you said, move away from shame and blame, but also move away from projection and expectation.
Yes.
Right? So I'm just
Yes.
here and now, this is who I am, and I still feel the feelings, I think the thoughts, I do I make the choices. And tomorrow I'll make a different choice and I'll have a different feeling and I'll have a different thought. And if I want to keep it all the same, I can. If I want to change it, I can.
Yeah. And it's funny when you talk to people who just really don't have this concept at all,
Yeah.
and they really believe, because I remember telling someone something that had happened with my middle kid and what my response to it was. And they're like, yeah, but I mean, like, how do they learn if you're not gonna like punish? And I'm like, do you feel that punishment actually teaches you? You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like,
Yeah.
there
Well,
are
and you know
natural
what?
consequences to actions, and I will allow
Yeah.
those to unfold. I won't rescue you from natural consequences, but why? Who am I to come impose an extra greater thing?
I was just going to say there's natural consequences. They will pay it. They will experience it. And to me, one of the big things is um accountability and
Hmm.
vulnerability. And I
Hmm.
think this is why some people get it and some people don't. The people who like really freak out when you're, letting them make choices are the people who are ultra controlling of their own experience, ultra fearful, and unable to be vulnerable.
Hmm.
And I think by you saying, I trust you to make your choice, you are being vulnerable and you're holding
Yeah.
them accountable,
Yeah.
which is so beautiful. That's how we're supposed to live, right? And that's what you want to model to your kids. And does it mean that life is cleaner or, like less complicated or no? But either way, it's complicated.
Ex- Pick your hard because it's all hard. Raising children is hard. If I had the shamanic answer for any of it, great. But like what I realized, because I work really hard to see the me and other people and the them and me, right? What I realized when I came to that place of understanding about this, like, crucifix of accountability and the way that we really look at it was that's because those were the standards I held myself to also. And
Yep.
whenever I started to allow myself to be human and to love myself and have unconditional positive regard, regardless of the numerous mistakes I make in any 24-hour period, I could then offer that grace to others.
Yeah.
But
And
you cannot have compassion for someone else to an extent beyond what you're giving to yourself.
that's
And
right.
that's when I learned that.
And that's where I think, for me, my personal growth has been profound in recognizing that I've spent my entire life violating my own values with myself in an effort to maintain relationships that were unhealthy, in an effort to belong, in an effort to fit some sort of mold. And when I stopped and said, but wait, I don't believe in myself. I don't love myself. I am not treating myself by those same values that I'm trying so desperately to comply with externally. So therefore, I'm not authentic.
Mhm.
And so I had to turn around. I had to do a whole reprogram and go, okay, so, all these last years, I thought I was living by my values, but I wasn't with myself. And so I'm that's like the new little mantra that plays in the back of my head when I'm engaging with someone, when I start to feel myself veering off course and when I start to tune into that internal voice. The mantra is, are you aligned with your values? Are you still aligned? Are you aligned? Are you still aligned? And I just keep on asking myself that. And when I start to recognize that I'm getting ready to compromise a value with myself to satisfy a relationship or an expectation outside, the conversation now is inside. You're not aligned. Okay, notice that. And that's when I move away. And that's where I've started to peel back from some relationships, some really long-standing relationships, because it wasn't serving me, because I wasn't serving me in those relationships. There was
Yeah.
that codependency, there was that, that people pleasing that got me far. It got me to where I am, but in the end, I couldn't do any more for those folks because I wasn't serving me. And when I turned around and said, I'd like to bring me to the center of this, many of those folks that were receiving for all those years went,
The benefit
sorry.
of your people pleasing. Yeah.
They were like, nope, no, we liked you the way you were. So,
Yep.
and that's
Yeah.
where it really
And
starts to change.
it's it's wild kind of, but it's also
Yeah.
fun to watch myself transform in those situations and to confirm things that I knew intuitively but just shoved off all those years, and also to witness the protective layers that I put between me and everyone else in that people pleasing behavior, and how much, like, step by step I remove a layer, but it's so slow. Like, I have protected myself, and I had to. I mean, good for me for figuring out a system that got me
With
through such a
survival.
crazy childhood, but now it's safe. And so, but I'm also figuring out who it's safe with, because everyone is not safe for your truth. And that was a hard one. But I also had to learn where I was using confirmation bias to, like, keep me in a box, like, this is exactly why I don't share. This why I knew I didn't have anyone, blah blah blah. And it was just that, like, I would use, like, it's like I explained to a client yesterday, give them the grace that you would want in a situation. Like, you can be a really good person and still feel attacked when someone shares how you've hurt them. So give them that minute, because most people, after that initial response, if you don't react to their reactivity, they're going to come right back and they're going to say you're right. But you just
Yeah.
have to give people that minute, but you're learning to give yourself that too. And I was expecting myself to show up perfect too when someone came to me with my
Yeah.
imperfections.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I think it's great. And you touched on something with that whole people pleasing that I really, and I wrote about it in my book because um Stephen Porges has done a great job with polyvagal theory. And what he has basically shown is that the efficiency of our nervous system impacts our capacity to accurately read our social situations. And he identified, obviously, a lot of people know fight, flight, freeze, but he added in this category of fawn. And fawning is a submissive people pleasing in order to maintain relationships, to avoid conflict, and to again to feel safe. And so it's a really interesting dynamic. And I think it's curious because it can only serve you for so long. Any of those stress
Right.
responses can only serve you for so long. But when you try to put them in a chronic state, you either fight, flee, freeze, or fawn. You can't stay there forever. And
Right.
so you have that inevitable place where you go, oh, okay, that was a stress response. My people
Yeah.
was a stress response.
Yeah.
And when you can do that,
Yes.
you go, Wow. Okay, little Lisa, you've been carrying that a really long time.
Yes.
And again, and this is what I love about working with children. It has enlightened me into the path of finding my way back to my own inner child, but also, dealing with adults like children and recognizing that we all have these wounds that we carry, these survival tactics that have now become chronic and are unsustainable. And we get to the point where the chronic thing isn't sustainable anymore. And it's like, well, now what? And so we have to rework it. And if we can rework it with grace, with compassion, with kindness, with a spaciousness, then we can rebuild it. But it's the folks that go, that bristle and fortify to try to endure and stay the way they are.
Mhm.
Those are the ones that are going to really struggle, and we start
Those are
to
the
see it.
ones that lie to themselves and everyone around them by saying things like, I'm just too nice. Like,
Yes.
that is not nice, actually, to yourself or anyone else to be this big of a liar. But even like one of the damaging things I did to myself was my fawning could be so out there. And I then would be like, am I manipulative? Am I a narcissist? Am I fake?
Yep.
And I mean, yes to all of those
Yeah.
things,
I was
but
gonna say,
but
yeah.
I didn't need to like hate myself for it. I just needed to understand what it was. And whenever I started to understand why I did those things, then I could release the shame I felt over them. But I didn't understand why like people had such a big response, like knowing how I truly felt about someone, but then how I behaved around them. Like other people witnessing that really had a great big response. And so then that really triggered my shame and whatever. But it was the beginning of the internal like processing of why I do what I do. But it really wasn't until like I was learning a therapeutic term called reaction formation that I really started to understand what I was doing and that it was just a protective factor and that I don't have to hate myself for it, but I did need to work on releasing that. And
Absolutely.
and it was kind of a really eye-opening experience to see just how uncomfortable with conflict I was. I knew that I was uncomfortable. I didn't know I was so uncomfortable that I would then come and act like you're my best friend to your face because I didn't know how to confront.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, one of my values is integrity and honesty. And I was so desperate to maintain relationships that I would tell little white lies. I would tell you what you wanted to hear to avoid the conflict, to avoid the risk of losing that relationship. When on the inside, I'm going, well, you really suck as a person because look, you're not, like,
Yes.
and then I went, oh, wait a minute. If I can honor those values with myself, even if I lose that relationship, I don't have to say I suck as bad, like,
Yes. Yes, because like seriously being like, that's kind of messed up that you
yeah,
really don't like this person and yet you're like going out of your way to
yeah,
interact with them. Like what?
yeah, yeah, yeah. And so you finally, because like I said, it's not sustainable to be in that chronic state. And so one day you start to go, whew, this is really hard. And it starts to, the fissures, the cracks start to show up. And the people around you who are self-adjusted and doing their work, they're going to look and go, okay, I see the cracks, I'm with you.
Yeah.
And then the ones that don't want to do the work are going to go, see ya, because that's uncomfortable for me. Because as we're evolving, if we're not evolving next to people who are evolving, it's painful. It's painful for both of us. Like, I'm not saying there's a right or wrong. I'm not saying evolving or not evolving one is better. I'm just saying
Right. But it's a painful separation.
absolutely. And there's no fault in it. There's no fault in you moving in a different direction or me staying where I am or the other way around. There's no fault at all. It's just if we can be acknowledging, and this is where we get back to vulnerability and accountability. if we can be vulnerable and accountable, then we can work on that. And again, that ties back to energetic states and authenticity, because if I'm in an energetic state where, I have this really big anxious energy, it's because I know something's not feeling right for me. And if you interpret that energetic state as me being upset with you or whatever it is, or,
Mhm.
I feel like a lot of times we're working independently on our stuff, but we project an energy that oozes into other people's spaces. And then it's sometimes misinterpreted.
Right.
And then sometimes we hold on to their energy and try to make it ours. Our mirror neurons, we see how they behave and we go, hey, maybe I should be like that. And we use our mirror neurons to bring in their stuff and to try to be like them, to emulate them. But then on the other hand, this part of us is going, yeah, but that may not be, the energy I want to have. And so we give them our energy because their mirror neurons are taking ours. And in the end of the day,
Yeah.
we end up with each other's crap. And and then we get really confused because we don't know who we are.
Yes, share with the audience the practice that you were telling me you do at the end of every day, because I want to start implementing this.
Yeah, so I started to realize, and again, I do a lot of work with kids and adults around energy, because especially I work with a lot of young children and they don't have the
Hmm.
language developed to say how they feel. And quite honestly, I don't think at my age that I have any better ability to say how I feel.
Right.
But anyway, but so you have an energetic field, quantum physics, you're made of particles, you have an aura. And whenever you come into contact with someone, you bump into their energy. And throughout the day, somebody might send their energy to you. You might grab a hold of it and hold on to it. And then sometimes you might throw your energy back out to them. So you're doing this energetic exchange thousands of times a day. And in the end of the day, sometimes you don't feel like you, or you're really tired, or you just know that there's there's a disconnect there. So what I've been doing at the end of each day is I take a moment and I say a little meditation of um, let me return the energy that I have from others back to them. Let me receive back all of my energy. And any negativity that exists in those spaces be transmuted and transformed and sent back out into the world as love. And that's a forgiveness meditation. It's a rebalancing meditation. But the idea is I'm giving you your energy back. I'm requesting my energy back. I'm cutting these cords with absolute love. And if there was any negative in there, that it's being transformed and sent back out as a beautiful light so that
Yeah.
I can go to bed and you can go to bed and tomorrow
Yes,
we can
we will
do it all
not
over
think of one another all night.
again. Right.
Yeah, I love it. And I used to have a regular practice of saying I call back any of my energy that's, anywhere that doesn't belong. But the reciprocation, I really like that of both, because I don't want yours either.
Right.
Get off of me. But I also, I really teach people about the difference between doing things from a place of spite and doing things from a place of love and compassion for yourself.
Yeah.
And that love and compassion for yourself is what you share with others. And
Right.
so it's really important to, like, the energy is so different of like, ooh, no, blah, 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 you get away from me. And the energy of I love myself so much that I can see that this just really isn't like aligned for me. I'm going to send you off in love and in peace. That's
Yeah.
so totally different, because you're not just sitting there like spinning about anything. You're just sending the energy away. And I love that. And both are very important to call yours back, because, yeah, I give my energy a lot without
Yeah.
even realizing it. And just the act of saying I call back my energy makes me realize how many parts
Yeah.
of it I've given away throughout the 24
Yeah, and
hours.
it doesn't have to be at the end of the day. I used to have this practice when I would go into a school to teach yoga classes. Before I walked in the door, I did a clearing. I'm not taking my crap in with those kids. And when I
Yeah.
walked out, I'm not taking
I'm
their
not
crap
taking their crap.
home with
Exactly.
me.
Exactly.
Because if I didn't do that, I would literally be stumbling in this messy space because it was all connected. And I will tell you that one of the things that I love most about teaching these classes and trainings that I do is teaching people how to use the yoga to self regulate and co regulate so that we're able to receive and return energy a little bit more fluidly throughout our day, right? Because
Yeah.
we know you walk into a room, and I use this example all the time in my teacher trainings. You know, how many of you have ever felt really good? You walk into that school and there's this little clique of people standing over in this corner talking about something, and all of a sudden you're like, yeah, it's a shitty
Mhm.
world.
It's exactly right.
And conversely too, I mean, there have been times where I'm walking in feeling pretty crappy and there's this like really awesome positive vibe, and I'm like, see, life is okay. But that's, that's the co-regulating. And if we can develop tools to go, okay, that's the part I want, that's the part I don't, using the breath, we can actually control our experiences. And it's not that we're creating necessarily a force field or a bubble, but we're creating this permeable space where we can tolerate it,
Yeah.
and that to me is, and and that to me is the way to be healthy, and that's the way we actually resist disease, and that is the way we have more positive relationships, because it takes us out of a chronic stress response.
Yeah.
you know
Because no matter what your beliefs are about some of the woo stuff that I'm into, you have to know stress is the creator of a lot of disease.
yeah.
A lot. A
Well, and
lot.
stress is informing if we're attuned and aware, and we have the tools to go, hey, that person just walked in the room and I got sweaty and my blood pressure went up. What does that mean? Okay, I'm gonna tuck my thumbs into my palms and curl my fingers over, put my hands on my lap in Adi Mudra, and I'm gonna take 3 breaths because that's gonna ground me back into my energetic space. So, it's this constant being able to notice and recognize the stress response coming on. What part is it? Am I trying to flee? Am I trying to fight? Am I trying to fawn?
Right.
What's going on here? And very quickly go, oh, wait, I have a choice. I can take a
Yes. Yes, I love that. It's
yeah,
so true. And we are not trying to get to like nirvana in that we're never going to have a stress. We need to understand stress is going to happen all the time, and we're learning how to work within that stress to
yeah,
best benefit ourselves
yeah,
and
absolutely.
each other.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think it's the practice of being human. That's why we're here, is to go,
Yep.
"Oh, wow, look, that crappy thing happened. How does that make me feel? How do I want to feel? Well, I have a choice in how I feel. Huh, okay."
Yeah,
And there's another
absolutely.
crappy thing to play with, and then there's this beautiful thing, and then there's this, whatever else. And I just and I, you and I could go on and talk for hours, but I think there's an author, and his name is escaping me right now. I'll remember it in a minute, but he came up with a energetic vibrational frequency tied to emotions.
Mm.
And he showed that these frequencies are tied to these emotions, and they kind of range in their frequencies. And so as we do these energy practices and we're attuned energetically, we could start to go, oh, I'm slipping into the frequency that could be identified as sad, or I'm slipping into the frequency that could be identified as excited, or whatever it is. And when we can start to do that, all of a sudden we're okay going to the lower frequencies or the higher frequencies because we know it's all temporary.
Right.
It's all fluid. It's
Yes.
all fluid.
You don't have to overreact about any of it.
No.
Equilibrium, homeostasis, it will
Yeah.
happen. I
Yeah.
love that. Man, I'm so happy that we had this conversation. I knew I'd feel much less tired by the end of it. Thank you for riding that wave with me. I really appreciate it. And for just like letting me off the hook with just such a simple like it's cool if you're tired. I was just like, ugh, I don't want you to leave with a bad vibe because I was so tired, but I shouldn't have doubted myself to that extent. Where can we find you?
I have the website for my nonprofit is createcalm.org.
Okay.
And on social media, I am Yoga Therapy with Lisa Danahy.
Okay, and I will also include links and for your book is where's your book able to be found?
You can actually find the book on Amazon if you search
Okay.
Creating Calm in Your Classroom. And even though it's entitled for a classroom, you parents out there, it's still going to work for
Mhm.
you. Healthcare
Mhm.
professionals are using it. I've gotten a lot of feedback of, folks going, well, why do you call it for a classroom? Well, that's where my roots were.
Right.
And it is also an incredibly effective curriculum for early childhood where, we were talking about language and movement is so important for helping us
Yeah.
to make this implant these tools. So even though it says for the classroom, I could have just as easily said for parents or kids or astronauts or
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. For moms, for dads. I
yeah.
love that. Well, again, I'll make sure that I include all of that in my show notes. I just appreciate you and the energy that you've brought today and the work that you're doing so much. So thank you so much.
And I
I'm going to
appreciate.
press stop, but if you could hang out for 1 second.
Emotionally unavailable.
Hey, make sure you've given the show a 5-star rating on whatever platform you're listening to if you haven't already. And check out my website, empoweredwithmelisahepner.org, or my link tree on Instagram at melissa.hepner to check out my latest offers or workshops. All right, that's it from me. So make sure that you check out the show notes for links. And until next time, let's all just keep swimming.
Emotionally unavailable.
INDEPE and cut. This episode is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Do you ever think about switching insurance companies to see if you could save some cash? Progressive makes it easy to see if you could save when you bundle your home and auto policies. Try it at progressive.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Potential savings will vary. Not available in all states.